Well, hello, folks. I'm L.A. Little, and this is your daily NeoTA wrap. We take a look at these markets, and we do it from a neoclassical perspective. Each time we ask ourselves what happened today, and what does it tell us about the coming ones. I do this show 4 times a week, Monday through Thursday, broadcast at or before 10 o'clock Eastern Time. Archived on YouTube. It's under the channel L.A. Little. You can subscribe to it, get email updates, Google Plus, whatever you use, and view it anywhere, anytime on any device. That's the whole ideal as far as these markets. Down day to day, but industrials basically flat, down 0.01. S&P's down 3. The real damage was done over here, about 0.5% across the board. And if you look down at the bottom here, the dollar actually edged up again today, still in that range trade. Oil ended up slightly, but it looks like it's going to test the lows again. Couldn't hold the gains that it had today. UNL, actually the UNG actually tested the top and failed. The broader 6-month one didn't. Bonds reversed. All of this happened on the minutes today out of the Fed. They were basically a little bit more ease than was expected. The markets got a pop off that, then they gave it up, then they came back, and actually the bonds went up, and then they gave it up. So you had a lot of gyration intraday. But the end result was that you ended up with a situation here where these markets still haven't given it up, and the only thing that gave it up today was commodities. Gold, big day down. So let's pop over. Let's take a look at the charts together and see what we got. S&Ps. Okay, so remember yesterday the S&P and the NDX, they both spiked out, headed towards a new high. Both of them, shot up and looked like they were going to try to carry through today. Didn't happen that way. It actually tested the lows, but it did it, of yesterday, but it did it slightly less volume. Given where it closed, that kind of leaves the door open to try to test the tops again tomorrow. That's the S&P. The Dow, pretty much the same. Tested the lows, lighter volume, can test the tops again tomorrow. NASDAQ Composite. Now yesterday it went over, back under, less volume, failed on that break, trying to break over the highs. Today pushed lower, but again, slightly less volume on the push down. No sellers. NDX, same sort of scenario, pushes down, tests the low, slightly less volume. The only thing that's been given clues is the Russell. And the Russell trades down again today, trades up underneath the last swing point high, which is another retest regen. So remember, you had a retest regen here that failed 2 days in a row. So what do? We sell down again, right? And we're going to test this one now. What does it do? Test down into the support zone, stays in the support zone, right? So that support zone is going to disappear tomorrow because you're into it. But it holds just over the lows of the second retest regen, bullish retest regen. So it's already failed the top one. Now it's coming back and it's testing the next one. 320 there, 336 here. So you test it with more volume. You'd break underneath this swing point low. That makes it a sideways trend suspect. This one's going to try to test lower tomorrow. So now you've got all that divergence starting to take place again that we had before. If you remember, this is the way we've seen it play out throughout this year. S&Ps, NASDAQ, NDX, they don't want to go down. The only one who wants to go down is the Russell. And this is the time of the year where the Russell typically outperforms. So you've got this huge divergence. This one's going to try to test lower again tomorrow. Whether or not these markets are going to try to roll, we'll see. It looks like they're going to try, but so far they're still not giving off clues. As a matter of fact, if we go in and we look at the major sectors, we're definitely not having any clues there. So if I just kind of glance through these with you, IBB, range trading. IYT, trying to roll over, but really can't get any traction to the downside. SOX. Now the SOX broke out yesterday. Today comes back in, has a little bit more volume. It's testing immediate retest regen. So far, slightly less volume as it's retesting. So that's going to try to test higher. Let's see here. What's next? XLE. Range trade. Can't do anything. And it looks like the USO is going to try, the oil is going to try to test the lows again tomorrow, and you got inventory numbers tomorrow as well. XLB gets over, back under, and I think it has about the same volume, slightly less volume. So that's kind of a failure there, wants to try to retrace a little bit, and that's been getting a lot of rotation money. XLF can't do anything, but it's hanging. All of them are hanging. Nobody wants to give it up. The XLI actually gets up to a new high yesterday. Inside bar today tells you nothing. The only one that gave anything up today was XLK. You had NASDAQ, big caps, SOX, IBB, the big three, all under pressure. That pushed down, a little bit volume coming into it. That looks like it wants to try to test lower. So the only sector that looks like it wants to test lower, well, is showing that it wants to test lower is the technology sector. If you look elsewhere, though, they're all holding. XLP made new highs. I mean, this is an incredible run. Consumer staples, 10% run. You got to be kidding me. It's actually 11, 12% now in a month and a half, 6 weeks. It's that kind of a market, right? Where a lot of things that typically you wouldn't see, you do see. XLV still holding at the highs. XLY, rotation money still coming in there. Gas is cheap. People got to spend their money. So when you look at the sectors, there's still no give up. All you got is the XLK. Now, that's a big one, and that's a start. But right now, you don't have much going other than the Russell, and now the XLK showing some sort of attempted pullback. Now, if we go overseas and we look at the overseas markets, there you actually have some, downside action going on as well. So if I pop over to Asia, Asia's been struggling. Here's the HSCE, which is the Hang Seng China shares. These guys are totally range bound. They can't get anything going. Hong Kong, same situation, nothing going there. If you look at any of the others, they're struggling. Korea tries to test higher, can't. Japan actually pushed back up to the highs, but it looks like a failure to me. Going to come back down tonight probably. The Taipei, same situation, can't get anything going. Indonesia gets a nice push up. This is kind of China's replacement, in terms of cost structure, so they're still doing pretty well overall. But nothing there. If you go over to Europe, you actually have a kind of an ugly bar here, but it gets over the high and stays over it, so it's a suspect breakout on the German DAX. That's a positive. France, however, failed. Goes over, back under. And the FTSE actually did a test, but it had more volume, so it can test again. So no big signals here either, other than Asia still can't do anything. And if you look at the EEM, you'll see that really can't lift, and that was even with Brazil getting a decent lift today. This can't go anywhere. So emerging markets, still nothing happening. Mature markets, Europe, still holding highs, still looking, like they're going to try to trade higher. France is the only one that failed. Our markets, other than technology today and the Russell, everything else is holding. So, when I look at everything and I put it all together, and then actually let's add a couple more things in here. I talked about the dollar hanging at the highs, and it still is. But the big disappointment today, if you're a bear, is the bonds couldn't hold at the highs. So bonds pull back down. They're going to try to test lows again. Usually that's not bad for the markets, equities. And so, when you see all those things together, I still have no strong clues that this market's ready to give it up. Calendar-wise, if it's going to happen, I would expect it's going to happen tomorrow, Friday, because if it doesn't, what are you? You're into the Thanksgiving week. Usually that's a positive. After that, you're into December. It's just not much left on the calendar to send this thing lower. So unless we see some sort of a pullback probably tomorrow, Friday at the latest, you got to start thinking, okay, they've hung here long enough, they're just going to take it higher. And so that's kind of where my head is right now. Tonight, Japan, China, tomorrow, Europe, US, all PMI numbers. So the big data swath is tomorrow. You had those minutes today from the Fed, didn't really do anything to the markets up or down. That will be the issue tomorrow. If we're going to have an issue, it's going to be those data points. And other than that, I just don't see anything killing this thing yet. And for good or bad, for bad or worse, whatever, that, for better or for worse, this market keeps hanging, folks. And if it can hang up here long enough and work off that overbought in a sideways fashion, you got to think it's going to try to trade higher. So it's going to be a short show tonight. I don't have any questions. If you have questions, would like to ask questions, it's easy to do. Pop over to the site. Go in here to NeoTA TV. There's some data points here. You can text. You can email. I'd be happy to take your questions. I do have one question, but I'm not quite prepared. It actually has to do with the stock that I've looked at recently, and I'll cover this tomorrow. It's Titan Medical. It's out of Toronto. It was, I think it's it's in Canada. I can't remember exactly if it's in Toronto or not. It's trading on the TSX. They had earnings, big spike down on earnings. That was this bar. We talked about it on Monday, I believe, Monday or Tuesday. I think it was Monday. And now the question, of course, is, what's going to happen next? I said I'd probably review this on Thursday. I'll pick it up tomorrow. There's a request to look at another one as well. I was reading through the earnings report today. I want to digest that a little bit more. Had a positive day today, but a very negative day yesterday. They blew out a lot of folks, I suspect. You basically cut this stock in half in a week. You went from $2 to $1. Now, of course, it's back up. It closed at 140, I think, today, 142. So you're down, roughly 25% instead of 50%. But this is a startup company, and they have no income basically. They're running on financing. They have some great technology they're working on, some robotics. But just like a gold company, as an example, until you get something that you can sell, you're dependent on financing, and you're dependent on cost overruns, things like that, things you don't expect. This company, from a first glance, looks like they have enough or almost enough money to run them through to the production stage, assuming their estimates are right. They had, some rounds of financing this year. It's going to keep them going. Today was a positive. It's a takeaway bar. Nice big push back up. But let's let it play out tomorrow. We'll cover it tomorrow night. I'd like to see this trade over and close over this 143 tomorrow. That's the key, because that's the big bar. So you get right up to it. Tomorrow will be a key day. I thought I'd bring it up tonight because I know a lot of you are interested in it. So take a look tomorrow, see if this closes above the 143. If it does, that's a huge positive. If it doesn't, it's a little bit more dicey. So we'll see what it does tomorrow, and I'll talk about it in detail along with the other one. We'll leave it at that tonight. Have a great night. Thanks for joining me. Until then, I'm LA. This is and it was your daily Neo Wrap. Have a great one. I'll see you next time. Good night.